Well, I'll tell you what. After high school, I worked as a domestic for a family. And what she said to me is, you don't belong in my kitchen and nobody else's. So she insisted that I come and take that test. It used to be an all-day test. You had to, when you got into Glassboro, she insisted. She took me and brought me up here and insisted I take the test. So I took the test, and I had a very high mark, especially in math. And she kind of kept pushing me. And with no money and no supportive family that I could depend on to pay, I just didn't have anything. But I took the test, made really high marks to get in, and so I came. Freshman year, we could not stay on campus anyway as students. But it was Mrs. Long, she took in girls, and she took me in, and she told me, and I didn't have any money. She told me, well, you can pay me when you graduate. So that was the first year because we couldn't go on campus as freshmen. And then after that, I did come on campus at Glassboro, and it was in Law Hall for the 3 years that I was on campus. First 2 years, we had the triple and then the double on the Law Hall because one of my roommates was a year ahead of us, so she graduated the year before. So we had the triple in law, and then when she graduated the last year, we had the double in law. We walked the campus. And, the strange thing about it is you could walk the campus if you want, but after a while, the locals knew you, and they'd pick you up and carry you from a house. Yeah, hey, it was just like they were there. They would just take it. But see, that's how things were. People helping other people without thinking all the crazy things that are happening today, We'd get out and, the different ones would ride by and see us every day, and they'd take us to the campus and drop us off and keep on going. Yeah. So that's how we made out very well. And even if we, we went to church on Sunday, and you had your dinners when we lived on campus, and we went to church on Sundays. Church was usually till 1 o'clock, but dinner was at 12. So a lot of those ladies would take us home. Like I had 2 roommates, myself, 3 of us. They would take us home and feed us, things like that, because we'd miss our dinner by an hour if we stayed at church. Well, the church was up the block, the Emmanuel Baptist. It was up the block, so like I said, I always went to church. So I went to church, and I encouraged my roommates who were not churched, but they went with me. Well, it was also true. The young men were handsome. So that's an encouraging thing, too. The big sisters, when you came in, you were assigned a big sister, when you came on campus. And Jeannie Shimpton, I think, was the little redhead little girl, was my big sister. When they came in, they taught you how to buy books and to do this and, those kinds of things. Yeah, it wasn't segregated. But see, you pretty much went to school. You pretty much had classes all day. But with your breaks, you go in the commuter's room and play pinochle. I like the proms. I like to dance. I like to dance. I like the proms, and every class had a prom. So it was 4 year, and I enjoyed that. I also worked in the library, so I worked in the library my 4 years, and I liked that too. I was always trying to teach somebody even before I went to college. I was that type of kid. I taught in Pettertown. I taught in Pettertown, 7th grade, and then I taught in Philly, long-term sub in special education. As a teacher, I believe that everybody had to learn. And I dedicated hours and hours to homework and papers, and when you did it, I brought it back the next day checked. It wasn't going to be not checked and done when I was teaching. I figured I worked hard, and I worked them hard. And I didn't teach long because I ended up having children. That's what happened, really. And when it was time to go back I was a social work position, and that's what I took. But I was a dedicated teacher. I just figured I always wanted people to learn. I only taught about a year. A year. Then I raised my family for about 4 or 5, and then I went into social work. Well, to tell the truth, I needed a job, and I passed tests, and I had the highest mark for 3 counties: Gloucester, Salem, and Cumberland. So I said, "Okay, I'll take this job." So that was really how it happened. And so I went into it, and I liked it. I enjoyed it. I like people. Well, with social work, you deal with the whole family. In teaching, you deal with a child, with an individual person, a child or somebody. So I personally felt that after getting in it, that social work was my calling rather than teaching, although I was an excellent teacher. You have to sometimes motivate folks to want to do. For instance, I was most interested in getting mothers to go out for job training rather than sit home or whatever. I sort of pushed them, well, why don't you do this and go to job training, and why don't you do that? In other words, I was more prompt to try to promote them to want to go out and do something. Even in my neighborhood, when some of the young people used to finish high school, I have walked in my community and encouraged them to apply to come to Rowan, Glassboro State Teachers College at the time. I knocked on doors, and one of my young persons, she would say, well, Miss Florida, she said, I never thought I could go to college because I didn't have any money. I didn't have any either when I went, but I did. And she became a principal in our schools, in our local school system. And she's now retired, but she said, I didn't think I could go because I didn't have any money. I said, I didn't either. So I personally was orphaned at 5, and my aunt raised me. And she raised a group of 10 children, and she only had one herself. I'm who I am. I know who I am and whose I am, and that's important.